welcome to Gondor. Now we're going to kill you.
You said Gondor in Middle Earth? Am I in Middle Earth?
Gondor? It's like your condor.
Oh.
Is Gondor in Middle Earth?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken.
Gondor's not.
Gondor is. Gandalf.
Where is Gondor from? Look it up real quick. I am interested now.
It's in Middle Earth, dude. Yeah. Gondor.
Welcome to Gondor. Is it where the men stay?
Kingdom of Men in the Middle Earth.
It's where
Is it where the men are?
Bordered by Rohan.
Yeah.
And Harad to the
Yeah.
south.
Yeah. It's near Rohan. Okay.
Rohan is where they rode the horses, and Gondor is where
they killed people. Okay. Now, I have no idea. When we do an episode like this moon landing thing, I have absolutely, the internet is such an interesting place because I know that
No, it's not.
There are going to be these vocal people on both sides of the argument. And according to the surveys, there's going to be more people who are defending this conspiracy than you would have first thought.
20%.
I think it's probably a little bit, that survey's a little skewed, but more people than you might think think that it didn't happen. There's a really interesting film. Have you seen Room 237? Did you also see that?
I want you to tell me about that, but I also want you to tell me about the conspiracy theorist that you lived with. I don't want you to forget that. Because I've never met a conspiracy theorist, but you have.
I feel like you might remember more about him than I do.
But I also haven't seen Room 237.
Well, I was just gonna say, there's a really interesting film called Room 237, which is a documentary about what The Shining might be about. That Kubrick had all this hidden message in The Shining, and there's like 3 or 4 different theories with a surprising amount of evidence as to what The Shining was really all about. But the most compelling one is that it is essentially his confession of filming and directing.
That he was the director.
Yeah.
Of the fake moon landings.
Yeah, and there's a number of interesting evidences. We won't go into all of it, but it has to do with there's so much symbolism in his movies, and some people have pieced this together, and it seems it's a pretty interesting case.
Is it a well-done documentary, though?
Yeah. I mean, it's not incredible, but I enjoyed it as far as documentaries go, which I enjoy. But it makes me think about this guy and just about conspiracy theories and theorists in general. And here's my theory about conspiracy theories.
Can you tell me the story of the guy first, that then I think that fuels your theory? I just can't wait to hear the story.
I don't have a story.
I remember that you found out that the guy living below you in the first apartment we lived in Los Feliz when we moved to California, you found out he was a conspiracy theorist because he unfurled a banner out of his window about something about 9/11.
Yeah.
And then you could hear him. Was he below you or beside you?
He was below me.
You sure? Because he would have packages. You would tell me there'd be like all these packages because your doors were like near each other and you would see each other. He was on the same floor as you.
Maybe he was. What I would do is he would have his door open to his balcony, and I would have my door open to my balcony.
And you would hear him.
And I could hear he was like a leader of a group of conspiracy theorists, and
he was on like conference calls. Speaker
sounded
calls.
like he was international, like talking with people about a lot of things, and he was convinced of a lot of things, including that 9/11 was, perpetrated by the government, and he had a big banner. It was a big sheet that he had spray painted. 911 was an inside job or something like that, and it was on his balcony, and they let him keep it there.
They did?
Yeah. I never talked. I'm not.
Did you go to the website?
No. I don't think so. I mean, I don't get into it with people of that ilk. I don't engage.
Right, because I mean, when you're living right beside somebody who has opinions about anything, so much so that they're gonna put a sheet with something written on it outside. I don't care what it is. I'm gonna stay a safe distance from their opinions.
Yeah. What if it's like, I like sheets?
I like sheets.
I'll go to ilikesheets.com, yeah.
Hey, I would not engage anyone who loves sheets that much about sheets. I would engage them
about life.
What's your dog? But I'm afraid to engage them about the thing that they feel about sheets, if they feel that strongly about sheets.
Right, because I'm like, I don't know what kind of sheets I have. I don't know what the thread count is, but.
Okay, and if they misspell it as sheep, it's not any better.
I love sheep.
Yeah.
Here's my theory that will potentially make people mad.
Was he upset? Whenever you would like hear
Oh, he
him
was
talking.
so fired up, yeah. Anything, I don't care what historical event it is, any historical event that you want to develop a conspiracy theory about, it is not that difficult to A, question things that have happened in history, B, develop a seemingly airtight case, inexplicable things that can only be explained if your conspiracy is right. You can do that with almost any event. What you find is that most people who question something like 9/11 or the moon landing, they have a tendency to question these things. They don't just question one, they question multiple ones. And what they tend to latch onto is there's like, oh, if you look at this particular event in this way, you'll see, oh, there's a hole here, there's a hole here. That history's like that
Illuminati.
in general. And
Well,
you can begin to piece these things together, but the thing is that most conspiracy theorists are ignoring the weight of the evidence. You know what I'm saying? They'll take a little piece of information and they'll build on it and they'll build on it and they'll add another thing and they'll build on it, and they'll never question their facts or their perspective nearly to the degree that they question the mainstream perspective.
Well, to me, it's comparable to the difference between everyone's a critic, but not everyone is a whatever, fill in the blank of what's being criticized. You know, you may not be, everyone's not an architect, but everyone can criticize. It's easy to criticize the layout of a building or a movie. Everyone's a critic of a movie, but can you go out and make a movie? Now, I don't think you have to make something in order to be a critic of it, but I'm just observing that it takes a lot less time and energy to make a legitimate criticism of something than it is to actually make the thing that's being criticized. And that can be, you can go off the deep end with that.
Well,
Because for every one thing that you can make in that same amount of time, you can criticize everything that's been made.
well, in
Theory, depending on what it is that's being made. If it's a sandwich, well, probably
but see,
not.
but see, we're not talking about sandwiches. We're talking about history. We're talking
That's
about
right.
we're talking about
We're not talking about sandwiches.
Well, we're talking about non-repeatable historical events. History and science are two very different things, right? History is all about probabilities. You can only determine what is most probable. If it was yesterday, you can, because you can't repeat it, right? It's in the past. So historical investigation is all about probability. So you have to look at the weight of the evidence and you have to determine what's the most probable thing. 99 times out of 100, the conspiracy theorists are suggesting something that is not probable. And they're suggesting something that the weight of the evidence actually doesn't lead a normal person to believe, but they have what's called confirmation bias. We've talked about this before, this confirmation bias that it's just like, oh, I found a little hole here, and I found a little hole here, and I found a little, never mind the huge holes in my theory.
I believe we've talked about it before. Does that mean we have?
Maybe not on the show, but me and you together have talked about confirmation bias.
I was making a joke. I was making a confirmation bias joke.
So, I don't know. I'm just saying that just apply critical thinking to things like this. I'm not saying it's, listen, I just read about the moon landing on Wikipedia.
You know what? I'll say this. You said 99 out of 100. What about the 1 out of 100 that they're right?
Occasionally they probably are right.
Like what?
I don't know. I'm just saying that, I'm not saying that every mainstream perspective on every historical event is correct. You can't argue by popularity. It's just because something's popular doesn't make it right. I'm just saying that usually the things that have been accepted by mainstream academic institutions have been accepted not because there's this huge bias or there's this big conspiracy, but because the most number of smart people have analyzed the best pieces of evidence and come to the most probable perspective.
And those people watch this show. We make this show for those people. Cheers to you for being a critical thinker and a valuable viewer. And if I had to choose one, I would go with B.
Yep, definitely.
If you have to be only one.
Yeah. Just because
Be a
you're a
viewer.
conspiracy theorist, don't stop watching this show, buddy. We appreciate you and your
Or sister.
and your tinfoil hat.